welcome to our first podcast of BalletNEXT Talks. We are joined with the one and only Michele Wiles, the artistic director of BalletNEXT, the creator of BalletNEXT. Michele, wow, it's our first one doing this.
Indeed.
Well, I mean, we've been talking about doing this for quite some time because
2 years?
2 years, yeah. I mean, we spend so much time inside and outside of the studio talking about past careers, stuff in our careers, stuff outside, and you've got a lot of stories, a lot of insight for dancers that are coming up, dancers that are in their prime that you have been working with here. Obviously, I mean, you took me from the 13-year drinking that Kool-Aid, and you pretty much turned my whole world upside down with how to, take my technique to the next level. So, I mean, I gave up everything to come out here and join you and be with you and your vision, and this is just a part of it. So I'm really excited to kind of dig a little deeper, and we've talked a lot about, and you've spoken a lot about who you are and where you came from with me, but I think for our audience, can you just kind of give us a little background, how you started ballet, what got you into it, and how you came up through the ranks, your training and everything else?
It's a long story.
We got time.
No, first of all, I just wanted to make a comment about you moving here. And you just basically said you picked up your life and moved here. That's pretty amazing.
I mean, when I believe in something,
I mean, but that's what it's about, right?
Exactly.
It's what you believe in, and that's why you were with Boulder for
13 years.
13 years, and other things that you have done.
And Ballet West before that, but yeah.
And you believed in that, and you believe in it, and but there's also a thing called change and evolution, and we all need to go through that.
That's right.
And I guess it's a little bit like about my story. I guess I should take you from the beginning.
Yeah, please
Again,
do.
You've heard it so many times.
I've heard it, but every time you talk about it, it's just so. I mean, you've talked to many dancers that have come in to your rehearsal studio. Mm-hmm. You do dozens of Q&As after shows, and people just love hearing it. And now this is the first time that everyone else around the world can hear this.
Sure. So I'm from Pasadena, Maryland. This is a little town outside of Annapolis. And when I was 2.5, my mom would always take me to her exercise aerobics class. And I still had my bottle. And whenever I would hear music that moved me, I would take the bottle out and completely interrupt the class and start moving. So for me, it was movement, and it was the music that inspired me. And the teacher recommended that I take class, so I took tap and jazz. Was not ballet yet, because I did not come from a family that knew about ballet. If it were up to my family, I'd be a rockette.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. I could still see that.
You could see a rockette.
I could see that. That explains a lot.
It's just one side. Life is a kaleidoscope, right? Everybody's a kaleidoscope here. So I did take the tap and the jazz, and then I was introduced to ballet to improve my jazz technique, and it was something about it. I became utterly obsessed with the fact that I could keep going back to something and making it better. So it was this little obsession that was born. My parents thought I was completely crazy. This ballet crap, and I would spend hours and hours in the basement watching Gelsey Kirkland and Baryshnikov and the Nutcracker, which is one of my all-time favorite videos.
Sure.
And I'd wear my hair in that bun with the hair down, and I would dance that variation, which is not the original variation.
It's not, no.
She actually made up her own kook version. I love her.
This is why we're here, letting it all out.
This is fabulous. And I would just try and emulate her and other principal ballerinas from American Ballet Theater.
Now, when you were starting out with that, I mean, you were still doing schoolwork as well. I mean,
Sure.
was that schoolwork in the morning, obviously, and then going straight to dance classes? I mean,
it was a traditional thing.
Going from A
I
to
would
B.
go and I went to a neighborhood elementary school, and I went to Susan Ina's dance studio.
nice.
But they recognized that I had a talent for ballet, and I was introduced to this other woman, Donna Harrington, who studied at the Royal Ballet, and I started studying with her, and she was more serious about technique and
Sure.
proper alignment, and just way more. It wasn't fun anymore. But I loved it. I loved it that it wasn't fun anymore, and I was being serious.
It was going to the next
It was
level.
going to the next level. I was like, yes. And so she had me audition for the Royal Ballet School when I was 10 years
wow.
old.
At 10.
At 10. So I made it into their summer school, and they offered me a full scholarship after that.
Oh, my God.
At
Okay.
10 years old, to live at White Lodge. And my parents, unfortunately, they would have had to sign legal guardianship over.
Okay.
Who knows what would have happened if
If they didn't do
if
that.
they didn't do that, and
Mhm.
I actually went there. But luckily, one of my teachers discovered that the Kirov Academy of Ballet opened in Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
which was only an hour and a half drive away from my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I auditioned with the Russians. Dum dum dum.
Dum, dum, dum.
Dum dum. And they gave me full scholarship, and I boarded there for 6 years.
And when did you
I
leave?
lived there. I
Yeah.
left home at 10.
At 10. Okay.
Yeah. Luckily, my parents could drive down there at any time. I could go home on Saturday after class because we worked 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, I didn't mention this, but I was a competition baby. So I did lots of regional, national dance competitions where I would do tap, jazz, ballet, you name it, I did it.
So if you could think back to like the first time you stepped on stage, what was that? What were you doing?
Like the first time
Yeah, if you can think back to the very first time you stepped foot in front of a stage and audiences and lights.
that was a recital.
It was a recital.
Lollipop.
Lollipop. Oh, okay.
And I think I told my mom my dress glowed in the dark. I was like, Mom, they turned the lights off and my dress glowed.
But then you traded all of that in
I
for the point shoes and the high
It was a
bun.
seriousness. I
Yeah.
don't know. It just was serious, and I got into it. I was hooked, and I was just hooked at. I don't know. I don't want to say the perfectionistic part of it, but it was just always.
But that's still good. But that's a part of who we are for a lot of people, from our generation, is that, once we had fun with something, we want to make it better. We were looking for that next thing that could make it to that next level, to that next, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, I would just spend hours just balancing on one leg.
Yeah.
Like, I found that utterly fascinating. For hours,
Which you still do.
I do. But other kids are like, I want to go play. I want to go get some ice cream. I want to, play cash register. I want to do this. No, I was balancing on one leg. Like, amazing. It was so much fun.
So how long did you spend at the Kirov?
So I spent 6 years there.
6 years. Wow.
And it was actually, the director was Oleg Vinogradov. And he was the director of the actual Kirov Ballet in Russia at the time, in St. Petersburg.
Mm-hmm.
And Yelena Vinogradov was there. My teacher was Alice Zizova, massive prima ballerina from there, along with Irina Kopakova.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah. So.
I mean, we're throwing out a lot of names that only the ballet world out there is going to know and recognize a little bit. But I mean, oh my God, that is at that age.
I mean, I was basically adopted by the Russians.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
I mean, with any kind of serious training,
Well, absolutely. No, I mean, how they take in the kid and they
mold them.
Exactly, because it's a serious art form.
Like their child.
Exactly.
I was Oleg's child, and he really, cared for me a lot and understood the talent. I remember there was an exam. We had exams twice a year.
Oh, the ballet exams.
And we'd have to memorize a class, and we'd study it for a month. I mean,
And
it was like a full-length ballet.
I was going to say, because you see those videos on YouTube of like the ballet exams, and there are some of them that are in the studio, some of them are on stage, you know, the final exam, the first exam, and I mean, everyone has to, you know the combinations as if it's, like you said, it's like a performance, whether it's in the studio in front of the teachers and in front of very certain staff members. And that was you. You were in that process.
I was in that process. I was a child of Theater Street.
Oh, well.
You know, have you seen that?
I have,
The
yes.
Children of Theater Street?
Yeah.
That was me.
Oh, okay. I mean, again, explains a lot.
You're funny.
I thought I was
I like
Matthew.
it. Oh, it was pretty good.
I thought I was Matthew.
What?
You said I was funny. I thought I was Matthew.
Oh my
So
God.
anyway, sorry.
That's what you can do with this guy. All right.
Well, okay. But so you go over to Russia. You start with the classical ballet, but I mean, clearly, was there any other styles of dance out there that they were training you with? Was it pure classical?
But they were teaching me. I mean, this was Mother Russia. This is
what you were doing,
the home of
this was it.
This was the home of classical ballet for them. But for me, I was doing competitions on the weekends, like I said, where I was, dancing to Freddy Krueger songs and.
So
I was.
I'm
and I was on Star Search. And
well, that's the thing that you have talked about, with other people and myself as well, is that, it wasn't that you were down one path. No. That a lot of dancers that get into ballet
one of those
seriously,
schools.
That, and even as a person, as a human being, as a child that wants to take this seriously, they go down that one yellow brick road, and they don't veer away from it. And that's something that you've told me a number of times, is that you were very versatile in what you were doing, that you were doing XYZ that they told you to do and that you were supposed to do, but on your free time, you were still off doing competitions, you were still dancing, and this class, it's sick.
I couldn't get enough. Oh, yeah, it was slightly,
little kook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I loved it. My parents, they never. The great thing about my parents is they never said you can't do it that much.
That's good.
Like it was, I just went. And
you had
I
the
had
whole
so
door
much
open.
energy. The whole door was open, and they were, super supportive of that, which I think was really important during that time. Because I had people, at the Kirov, there's a certain style. You can't smile. Everything was, Michele, you're overdoing it. Michele, don't smile too much. Michele, put your leg down. Oh, no. Because in a competition world, you let it go.
You let it go.
And I think there's something to that. Because sometimes when you get caught up in such a serious ballet school, that you can actually detrain your instinct, because it's so particular, and each eyelash is coached and your finger is coached. And then I would go on the weekends and let it all go. I think it was a super healthy thing for me to keep doing it. I kept doing that until I was 15.
So now we're up to the 15 marker. So now that you've been training, because you showed me. Go ahead. Yeah,
and I gotta tell you, Oleg Vinogradov, director of the Ominous Demonous Kirov Ballet, had me do my contemporary lyrical solos,
which is like
during the shows and on Moscow television in Moscow.
Which
I was
is something
saying, Papa, can you hear me?
and they've never. Even to this day, it's something that they don't.
Do.
Yeah, they don't do that. But he was like, he let you go.
He supported it.
He let it go.
And he let it go. And he's like, yeah, do him in the show, do him on this, TV program.
So even back then, it was, you were still breaking barriers even at that time and age.
I always had my toe outside of the.
Of course.
It's a little. That's how we survive, right? Boom.
So now take me to when, because you went from that whole final exam, classes and everything. What was at the age of 15, you said? 15, 16, around that time? So what led it into a professional career that made you want to,
Good question.
because there's always those obstacles when you're 14, 15, 16 years old as a teenager that, life, anxiety, depression, what am I going to do? The questions that pop up in your head, is this really for me?
That came later.
That came later. Okay.
This was
That came in rehearsal earlier.
That came in rehearsal.
Okay, gotcha. But I mean, it's something because I didn't come from that ballet world.
What's interesting? So the next phase for me was the next level of competition.
Okay.
So I did all of those, which prepared me to a certain extent.
Okay.
But then, it was actually from me because the school had never done Varna, Bulgaria, which is actually the Olympics of ballet.
Okay.
They had never participated in that. And I was like, can we do it?
That's awesome.
And at first they're like, no. You're not ready. Everyone's like, you're not ready. And so the first one was Nagoya, Japan.
Okay. And these are the like the top of the
top
ballet competitions.
Ballet, like the Olympics. And there's YAGP now and
which is Youth American Grand Prix, and then you have for me
Jackson.
Yeah, there in Colorado they have the Denver Ballet Guild. You get recognized.
Sure.
People offer you scholarships to their companies and stuff.
Sure.
But then there's this level.
Is like,
everyone
Sylvie Gilliam won the Grand Prix. Fernando Bajones, Kevin, Martine Van Hemel. I think Cynthia was in it.
Carlos Acosta.
We were all like, and so the first one was Japan, and I think I was coached in a negative way, thinking that they're like, oh, you're only 15, and it was like I would do a step. I think they were so nervous about the quality, and I would take stop. I would take another step, stop. So they weren't really, it was hard. So I did that first competition. I had a lot of anxiety, and I was on this gigantic stage in Nagoya, Japan. That was probably like the size of the Met with nothing on it, dancing. That kind of variation. I was like, bing, bing, bing. Oh my God.
I can't see anybody out there.
I can't see anybody. I'm all alone on this big stage. Right? So maybe I wasn't feeling myself as much, but I did manage to win bronze.
Oh my God.
First time.
And this is like the first competition.
Yes.
Okay. That you were projecting that ballet essence.
That I was like,
it's a bronze.
This is what I'm going for. And so, everyone was a little upset. Although they did say I wasn't going to win anything. So, the next round was Varna, Bulgaria. And that was in the summer. I think I turned 16. And I started working with Vladimir Julhadze. Completely different story. Why you not do 10 pirouettes? Why you not do this? Like, he saw me as this
firecracker.
Like this bravura, big ballerina, and he's like,
and he wanted you to go for it.
And he wanted me to go for it.
Nice.
So it was a little bit, better.
It was a little different.
It was a little different. Thank you, Matthew. So it was a little different, and I went for it, and it was crazy. I had to do 6 variations and 2 contemporary pieces.
Okay.
And that whole schedule was nuts because I'd wake up early in the morning and do a school class. We had in-house schooling at the time. And then I would do 3 or 4 hours of training. I'd have a quick lunch, do 2 more school classes. Then I would do my regular ballet classes from 2:30 to 7.
Okay.
And then I would rehearse myself. So.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. And I loved having a sun-kissed soda and a cappuccino muffin after all of that.
And that was it.
That was it.
That's all you needed. I think you still do that sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. Right. My system would be like that.
So
Yeah.
and then these competitions. I mean, I'm guessing because I've done the YAGP ones, and
Oh, wow.
and they sometimes last a couple of days. You know, there's you know
This is a whole week.
this is a whole week of this,
And we didn't find out who won until like 4 a.m. in the morning.
of course.
Yeah.
You didn't find out who was cut either, you know,
Right.
Down that pecking line.
Right. And, you know, the conditions were kind of weird. The stage that we performed on the last round, I think the last round I did Diana and Action and Black Swan Variation and Carmen.
All in one. Okay.
Yeah. The stage was so warped, kind of like the studio before we just fixed the floor. I had to like road map where I was gonna go.
Of course. Can't turn here.
You know.
Can't land over here.
Yeah.
So-
I was contestant number 22. I still remember that.
So wow, do you still have like the pin?
No.
No.
We didn't have to wear that.
So how many students or dancers in that competition do you think there was, if you could like ballpark it?
Gosh, I can't remember. I mean, 500 over
Oh my
over
gosh.
that? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And from all around the world too.
All around the world. That's the
That's the
crazy
thing.
thing about that.
That's the thing. It's not like
It's not just like everybody from
this country comes
the
together.
United States.
Right. No. From this
No,
state or this
This
town.
was from Russia, Romania, Bulgaria,
And everywhere in between.
America. Yeah. It was
So how did that competition work out? So the first one was bronze.
first one was bronze. This one I won the gold medal.
You won the gold medal in this
And
one.
apparently I would have won the Grand Prix if I didn't do a Michael Jackson contemporary solo.
Oh.
I did a Michael Jackson. I did this like really cool like
What
mix.
song? What song?
Oh my gosh.
Come
I
on.
can't remember.
Yes,
what
you can.
song
Come
it
on.
was. Oh God, you don't want to know.
Yes.
I can't remember. And I had these pants that were too big, and because I was so skinny at the time.
So that's what you said.
God, what was it? I can't
3
remember
classic
the song.
pieces, 2 contemporaries.
Six classics. So each
Wow.
round was 2 classical so my first round was Corsair
Mhm.
variation and Gamzati.
Okay.
And I didn't do the Michael Jackson yet. I think we did 1 variation for the first round.
Okay.
And then it was 2.
So
And
it
then
wasn't
like 3. It wasn't
yeah.
like
It wasn't like you could do this variation or this solo and then come back and do it again. It was, they were seeing you in this element, this element, this
Exactly.
element, throughout the whole week.
And I did like every ballet full of variations. It was wild.
Well, and so I mean, oh my gosh, like gold medal, and you were how old?
16.
16. And I mean, how many years of training for just the classic part would you say from then? I mean, what, like you said from the age of like 11 to 12?
11.
10.
I was almost 11 to 16.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean,
And then
that's that whirlwind, tailwind adventure right there,
Horse blinders.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, tunnel vision, but still
Tunnel
like,
vision.
light at the end of the tunnel. So, oh my God. So we got bronze medal, and then we go into a competition all around the world from, countries, dancers, whatever, and then gold medal. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
See, these are the things I don't think people really know.
Yeah. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
So now,
There was no time to break down. There was no time for...
there's still no time.
No.
No, there's still no
Like,
time.
you, it's so funny. You're like, did you worry? Did you like... And I'm like, nah.
Well, I mean, and I
was
think,
just like...
well, and I think that's important because nowadays, dancers, people in general, they don't have that sense of just commitment. There's, I'm going to try something, or I want to try something, but there's always a but at the end.
Sure.
There's a pretense and a past tense to something.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with...
No, there's nothing
wrong with that.
But that's the thing that I think is like the biggest, consistency here with what I've noticed about you, working for you. I mean, your partner for the last 2 years was that, it wasn't just, okay, I'm going to settle with this production. I'm going to settle with this rehearsal. I'm going to settle with this step of that we worked on for 2 hours, So, when you want something, you went for it, and that's all you focused on. It wasn't, I'm going to try and dip my toes into this and see what happens. No, you were head on full steam right
No,
into it.
I was like fully into it.
I just knocked my microphone over. It's still falling over on me.
Oh, it's passion.
I know.
Okay,
More passion. And see, it's still falling on me.
Oh, wait. We gotta tilt her.
Yeah. It's fine. Keep talking.
Where were we?
So you just won the gold.
Right, but we were talking in terms of like commitment and.
Well, that sense of having, full steam,
It's
but
just so funny. I just didn't think of anything. It wasn't like, I think I said this in an interview before. They're like, oh, do you think of like the childhood that you missed or whatever?
reflection. And,
I was like, I didn't know any better. This is what I did.
Right.
And the only time I did realize, what I had gone through was when I moved out here.
Okay.
And I went through that whole, Kiro thing and ABT career and BalletNEXT career in New York. And then I came out here and was like,
That's a lot.
that's a lot.
Well, so now you've mentioned one of the most famous subjects that people also seem to know about is American Ballet Theater. Let me say that word again, American Ballet Theater. So was that the next step after everything, was after the gold medal?
So it was pretty funny. I did do the Paris competition.
You did?
And I was a finalist
Okay.
at the Paris International Competition. Very different circumstances there. I don't know. It was a little bizarre. That was a bizarre one. But I did get to dance at the Champs-Élysées.
Wow.
Which was...
I mean, not many people can say that.
Right? So I'm like, you know what? That was awesome.
Not bad from someone just from Maryland.
Maryland.
I mean, North Carolina.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I get it.
You get it.
I get it. But wow. I mean.
Yeah. So... After that, they're like, "Oh, you gotta be a professional now." I'm like, "Really?"
You were how old then?
16, 17.
Still.
Yeah. And my friend Casey Hurd, he was like ABT, and I didn't know. Like, I was like Boston or ABT is what I heard about, and I auditioned for both, and I was accepted in the second company. I think BB2, and then I was accepted as an apprentice at ABT, and my Casey was too, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go with my friend. I went off, and there wasn't any time to sit and think, oh, which one is gonna be more my style, or
sure,
which one's gonna be better. It was okay.
This is what I want.
This is what I want. My friend's gonna be there.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's just go. There was just no questioning it.
Sure.
I was just so into it.
See, well, and that's again, that's what I'm talking about, is that you still carry that same commitment to even today's rehearsal. So
sure.
So you make that decision to join
American
Ballet Theater as an apprentice.
As an apprentice.
At age 18, 17?
I was at 18.
18.
17, almost 18. I had to finish high school.
And graduate from...
In a girls' dormitory in New York.
So no fun.
Well, you know.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Some woman said to my mom, "She's smoking in the room."
Still wearing the point shoes too.
Right.
Yes, of course.
Put my cigarettes up.
But okay, so once you got to American Ballet Theater, I mean, you have just done this array of training. You have done this array of, competitions, going from different art forms, different lifestyles, clearly from country to country. I mean, what's the process of transitioning over into something that now going from
You're a little
this
fish.
to this to this, jumping from pond to pond to pond, now you've landed in this lake and you want to stay here.
So you're a little fish in a big pond.
A little fish in a big pond.
So guess what the first thing I did? I sat on a chair. It was the first gala with American Ballet Theater, and it was Coppelia, and Amanda McCarrow was dancing the variation, and I was the doll on the chair.
You were holding the book.
I was holding the book. That's all I did. After all of that,
You go from medalist, finalist, and then you go to holding a book, wearing all the makeup.
And it was funny. I think it was a blog or something, and someone recognized me from Kirov, and because the Washington Post would review performances that we did, and they knew about the Varna thing, and they were like, "Oh, she looks so cute sitting on a chair. I can't wait to see her dance."
And this is all I got.
And that's all they got.
And this microphone is not liking me today.
I know, it's okay.
There
we
we
got
go.
time.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh, you just had to
Yeah.
need
Look at that.
a little pirouette.
Abracadabra, Topeka.
A little pirouette. A little pirouette will do you.
So what was that life? Because like I said,
It was hard for me at first. It was a transition because there's a different mentality.
Sure.
Russia is a very much more like parental, and when they're into you, it's like they give you the world, and you could work yourself as hard as you can, and there's a merit in that, and they reward that.
Sure.
And you get it. If you're doing it the best, they're like, yes. I got an A++ on my exam from Oleg because I did 5 pirouettes, and I did this arabesque promenade turn, and he was like, oh my God, and he would show that.
Wow.
And it really does good to know that you have that kind of support and that they love you.
That positive reinforcement.
Yeah. Which we need.
Yes, which is
because
lacking.
It can get really negative.
It's lacking. I've noticed a lot in my experience. Just even a little something can.
Just a little
it's like a little grain of salt can make
a big difference.
It can make a big difference in the texture and taste of things. But so, once you started realizing the small fish in a big pond.
Right. So transition to ABT. I was an apprentice for the first Met season. Then they put me in studio company, which was a step down from that.
Sure.
For a year, which was great. I got to perform lead roles. I performed a Raimonda, Don Q-Potida. I did a lot of good stuff, and I was able to keep my shape and my positivity. I had come from this all day, every day, grind away, and now I'm living in a big city. I got to deal with the city.
City life.
I came from a dormitory.
Before that, Maryland.
My parents made me red coat. I couldn't leave the building. And now I'm in the big city.
Now you're in bright lights.
Exactly.
Hey, you, keep it down.
Oh no. But prior to that, my parents would bring me up to New York when I was younger. So I had connections with other teachers. So I had outlets. I had my outlets still.
Still.
So at ABT, they were like, you gotta stay here every night, and you have to watch the performances, and you have to learn.
You have to go to all those.
And you have to do it, and you have to, because at any given moment, you can be, I didn't do that. And dude...
I feel like this is where I need to insert a really cool catch song that I can't because of copyright, but Rebel Child, rebeling. So once again, you were still bringing yourself and what you still love doing in a different way as an outlet on top of doing
So I would do whatever I would do with ABT, and then I would go at night and take class with Finest Young or whoever was teaching, because I needed to get myself, because you're under this transitioning from that to core was rough for me. Because all of a sudden I was watching this girl, we won't name names.
No.
She was very tall and very mean, although I was obnoxious. I would stand in the back in these rehearsals and do 8 pirouettes and like balance forever, and I still kept it going.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my god, I gotta keep this going. Meanwhile, I'm not learning the
You're not learning the choreography.
well, because the choreography is you're standing there like this.
Wait, yeah.
It's important to know how to do that, and I think it's important to know how to work in a group, but I just wasn't raised that way.
Sure.
So I did my best, and it was interesting. There was this funny thing. We were doing Swan Lake, and I was going in for this particular person, and the ballet mistress in the front said, you know, you guys, everybody can mark. I was like, great. I don't have to stand here forever. And this corps member looks at me and says, apprentices don't mark. And I was like, are you the ballet mistress? Again, getting myself into trouble.
Oh my god. And did you mark?
Yeah, I marked. Like, well, yeah. And so we left the rehearsal. This is me transitioning into this.
Mm-hmm.
We leave the rehearsal, and there was a friend. She came to me, and I was like, is everything all right with, you know? And she goes, oh, yeah, she's such a bitch. Maybe we can bleep that out.
Well, I mean, you know, we'll see.
She's like, oh, yeah, she's such a bitch. And so this woman came in and thought I had said that. I didn't.
You didn't, no.
No.
The other one did.
And she loses it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're never going to amount to anything. You're so unprofessional. You don't know what you're doing. You're never going to make it. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Oh, thinking that it was you that was acting
thinking
like that.
Thinking it was me that said that.
Mm-hmm.
So this started off...
This is what kickstarted everything off.
This is what kickstarted my career off. And then, oh my God bless David Richardson. He's like, I know you're not watching. I'm like, no.
But I mean, you were still doing it. That's the.
I was still doing it. I was still, you know, but that, I don't know. I just needed to. I needed to move.
Express yourself.
I needed to express myself. Thank you. And I had to get out. I couldn't sit there and watch it every night. Mm-hmm. Which there is something to that, because you do learn how people perform. I'm sure you learn from principal dancers. You learn from.
It's much of a visual.
It's yeah, and you, if you can see it, you can be it.
Sure.
Right. It's that, but I don't know.
Say it, believe it, see it, achieve it.
Exactly,
yeah.
But I felt like I was not.
But you had to do also all of that, but you also had to go do it yourself.
Yes.
That's the thing, you know. Yeah. Like, okay, I've seen it a dozen times, a million times. I want to go try it.
Right.
You know, you didn't want to just stand in line holding a rose, waving it around in a straight line. You wanted to go try things. You wanted to go experiment with things.
Did. And every time when I mean. But the amazing thing is, though, like, people recognize my talent, and they would always put me ahead of where my title was. Mm-hmm. So Susan Jones, I was an apprentice. They made me a soloist role in Etudes. I was one of the ladies in the white tutu. They were all soloists, and I was the lone apprentice in the middle.
No, is that something, again, because, I mean, I don't,
so,
I was going to say, like the whole pecking order of things, I mean, I've dealt with that in martial arts, which is a whole other podcast,
sure.
But, I mean, coming from someone who knows nothing, or who knew nothing, I should say, about the order of things and stuff like that, you know, is there something to be said about stepping on toes, the whole ballet drama backstage, friendships that, you know, were kind of could be affected by something like that? I mean, is it rare that someone in The Apprentice
just wanted to dance? I didn't want to, like, friends,
you didn't care about that.
I didn't care. I just wanted to dance, and I wanted to do it well. If you liked me, you liked me. I mean, I was pretty much more the reserved, observant type.
Mm-hmm. You kept to yourself.
But when I would dance, it'd be like, whoa.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and I had these soloist girls hanging out of line, and if this was really funny. If you can see the other person's head, that means that you're not in the line. You can't see the other person's head in front of you. Like,
so you're always getting that.
I was always getting that.
Mm.
Do you see this by the fan? Like when I would take company class, because I would like
Here I am.
explode. They would all be there to like chop me down. They're like, you see the fan in the back here? This is your space.
I'll put my label right on that one.
I mean, it was amazing.
I mean, you know.
It's like, how do you keep going, right? It's
Right.
like, how do you, and then I got the whole thing, like Kevin, he was like, you're a competition kid. You get labeled,
Mhm.
or you're Russian, like you're more Russian trained.
Oh, yeah.
And I really had to learn Patina Allegro
Mhm.
when I went there. I had to get a little bit faster.
Sure.
But I will say the strength from that Russian training really.
I mean, I'm sure everything from
the base.
that competition, expressiveness, artistic style of that one, then you combine, the holy grail, so to speak, of ballet training,
Yeah.
of that simplest classic form, and you combine those two,
Yeah.
as well as who you are as a person, it just blossoms, into it. I mean, I still see it.
Well, and people would recognize it when I was dancing with in the corps.
Mhm.
Like I did maybe La Bayadere corps once.
Mhm.
That's the worst thing ever. I hated it because I was standing in the back and I could see everybody like wobbling. I'm like, what they do this? I'm like, oh god. Because I was tall, so I was in the back. But I only did it once. Like a lot of these corps roles, I only did once. It
Wow.
was really.
So how long were you in the corps? I mean, you went from the apprentice, which you stayed at for how
And
many
I still
years?
did soloist roles. I was only an apprentice so I was an apprentice.
If we're talking like, labels
for
and
like
like
2
terms.
months.
Okay, apprentice for 2 months.
Second company for a year.
Okay.
2 months again, apprentice.
So go back.
And then I was corps de ballet for 2 years.
Wow. I mean, you want to talk about bouncing around.
Yeah.
But quickly,
Quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what the next for that one, was it demi-soloist or soloist?
No, a soloist.
It was soloist straight into
And the
it.
reason that happened was we were doing La Bayadere, Natasha Makarova, legend, another legend from Russia. She, oh my gosh, they had put me in there to learn the third shade, and they rehearsed the two soloists, and I will never forget this because Irina and Maxim, they're like, you got to do it. You got to do it for her. You got to, and this was at the tail end of and I did it, and she was like, she made me first cast over everybody.
Okay.
And then she said, why you not do Gumzati? Like, I don't know.
You were how old?
20? 19? 20?
So still, I mean, still,
20.
Still
20.
young, maybe, but still getting that different exposure now. I mean, that's what it
Sure.
seems, the more you describe these events, it's exposure. I mean,
It's all these little things that happen, like these little,
sure.
where they see you or...
But then you get to experience something else that maybe these people, were still waiting to, have that same kind of path that you were going down.
Right.
But again, that's...
But I feel like it's just, I never molded myself into that. I just kept going.
being you.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I just kept it together.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, is that you stuck to what you had to when you had to, but then you had the outlets outside of the studio.
And there were principal ballerinas that were saying, I don't want to come after your third variation. Because it was like thunderous, like eruption of applause. That variation. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, it's like boring, right?
Yeah.
Dun, but I would do this pirouette. I would just releve, and then I would go, zzz, like really slow, like so slow, and then I'd be like, and I would just,
And now I'm done.
and I'd keep doing it, and people were like, oh my god,
And they didn't want to come after that. No. And there's that, and again, that's that other level of, I mean, we can go into so many details about that, but I mean, you know, that other level of control and confidence that, you know, a lot of people, even to this day that I've spoken to and talked to, and we've talked to as well, that, you know, they dance one way in a studio and they dance another way on stage.
Sure.
You know, that they're not able to, you know, carry and transfer over that onto a stage or come alive.
Well, the issue with that is I think we rehearse things so much, right? And we're nervous and we want it to be good, and so we say it has to be like how we did it in the studio. So it doesn't really.
There's that pressure that
there's
builds
that pressure, and then you know you can kind of like crumble under that
very fast.
Or you can be like, okay, whatever we did in the studio, I'm gonna leave that at the door. And I'm going to go out there and perform.
Right.
I'm a performer, right?
There you go. That's the thing. You know, you're not this dancer, that you're a performer. You're an artist.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so I would go for that. And it was funny, when they made me first cast, the other two soloists, for some other reason, they had some injuries. So I wound up doing all 8 shows. And I don't know what was said, but Kevin promoted me after that.
To principal.
Soloist.
Okay.
I was still corps de ballet when I did all of that.
But you were, you know, having to step in for all those different roles and having the reliability.
I did theme and variations for the first time. David Richardson, he put me in that. I danced with Marcelo. I mean, there were a lot of opportunities that I got that were, so they were like, you know.
So what was what was the crown jewel that separated it from the soloist to the principal?
I was soloist for 5 years. And during that time, I mean, it was getting a partner at that time, because that is kind of like the...
Were you one of those tall dancers that had crazy limbs that no one could, like, reach?
Well, no, I was the strong one. I held everybody up.
So you were driving everything.
I was driving everything.
You were driving everything. You couldn't find the passenger that wanted to go with to go along with the ride.
With the drive. You need to hold my tiger tail. No. Yeah, no, it was intense, because it's hard to find tall male dancers. I mean, they're tall male dancers that can partner, but also they need to dance. You know. And there were a couple of them that were tall enough, like Marcelo. They brought in Roberta Bolle, and there was David Hallberg. But he was a little bit more fine-boned. They put us together a lot, I think, because we were blonde, and
the blonde couple.
Everybody called us Blonde Ambition.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Can we not? Yeah. So, and I think, because of that reason, because I was stronger in my technique, and he was a little bit beautiful technique, beautiful lines, but not as strong. There was
a balance to it.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for.
Sure.
But during that time, we competed in the Eric Brun competition, which I won.
What did you do in that one?
I danced Grand Pas Classique and Manon.
Ouch.
Yeah, I know, right?
Ouch.
Hardcore.
Ouch. But again, this is you we're talking to, so I don't expect anything less, but still, ouch. So when was that?
Ouch at the time.
Well, yeah, but still.
We pulled it off.
So when was that?
I was 22.
You were 22.
I was 22. I also did the Princess Grace Award. I won that as well.
Wow.
I was 21, maybe 20.
And what did you do for that one?
Oh, God. We had to film at the ABT Studios a few variations, and I can't remember which ones I did. But I do remember dancing Corsair Potida at the Waldorf Hotel with Gennady Savelyev.
Excuse me.
To receive the award.
I say, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I remember that. So competition day is still not over.
It's still not over. No, you were still going for it.
I'm still going for it. And you know, I really wasn't the favorite to win. Okay. Again, I did it.
And you belong in your spot next to the fan.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. You belong back there. Yeah. So, I won, and I was actually shocked. I was like, whoa. But the director of Stuttgart came up to me and he was like, well, you performed it with such joy. Performing Grand Classique with joy
is another
and air is another level because it's so hard.
You're right. It's very technical and classical.
It can be very confounding and serious.
It's almost like a domino effect. When one thing goes, it just goes.
Yeah. So, no, I was feeling.
But you added that extra,
on top of it,
je ne sais quoi to it. Yes.
And he mentioned that to me, and I felt so happy about that. So
that's that.
And I wasn't a technical monster, which I was called in the review of this whole thing. They called me a monster, a technical monster.
No, not just a monster, technical.
I was a technical.
But you
monster.
You didn't see yourself, or people didn't see you as that.
Well, the guy from Stuttgart didn't. The director from Stuttgart, he didn't. He came up to me and said really nice things.
But that's that it factor. That's unteachable.
Why was this critic so upset? Maybe because her person didn't win. Maybe. There's that.
Politics. Yeah. As in everything.
I mean, it was a good group. Friedemann Vogel was in it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Alicia Armatrayan. They were the Stuttgart couple. There was Guillaume Cote and Michele. I think her name was Michele from Canada. And then there was another Royal Danish couple.
Wow.
And me and David.
Wow. Okay. So it was almost, you can call it like the best of the best.
It was the best of the best of all. And it was super simple. Like, we all did our classical pas de deux, and then we did our contemporary.
I see. All right. Interesting. So, so you win again. You surprise people. You surprise yourself. You reach a whole nother limit. And now the next chapter, is that you come back to American Ballet Theater with this, and what's the process after that? I mean, is it?
So I got to tell you,
red carpet and flowers waiting for you? And
no,
no, okay. I mean, some people don't know that. Some people would think that that you're riding high.
It's back to the bar. It's back to the bar. It's back to looking at yourself and taking criticism from your coach and fighting to get back to the stage again.
See, and I think it's
a fight.
Well, and I think
we're gladiators.
Yeah, well, that's very true. And I think coming from that,
that's what the gladiators did, right? They would fight, and then they would go back.
They would go back to the training in the prison, and they would wait till the next fight.
Right.
And I think that's another misunderstanding is that being at the time still soloist, leading into a principal, but riding this wave, that I see a lot of on social media, Instagram, whatever you want to call it, of, I reached this limit. And then there was this expectation, or there was, I was now, XYZ label, but you wanted to continue that battle for yourself. You weren't, again, that Western philosophy of conquering, climbing, achieving, which we've talked about numerous times. But so you had achieved this long list of things that many dancers today still only dream of, or maybe even check off a few things. But you do all these things, you're reaching these limits, and you're still wanting more.
Yeah. I mean, we went back to the studio right after Grand Pas Classique because the next show was at the Met.
Okay.
Where we were on the same program right before Julio Boca and Paloma Herrera dancing Don Q Pas de Deux.
Oh my God. Okay.
I was 22 and David was 20.
Babies.
And we got to perform Grand Pas Classique, like on the Met stage in this crazy, amazing ABT program. And
almost like a gala.
We killed it.
Yeah.
Like it was, even Julio Boca and Paloma were like, oh my God. Because we got so much applause. I think the school was there too. And they were just so supportive.
Of course.
So into it. But I still had to do like my solo stuff.
You still
had to do my work. I had to do my company work.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And, those next 2 years were pretty brutal for me because I was making that transition from soloist to principal. So I had my full soloist, work that I had to do, all my soloist roles. Plus, I had the same schedule as Paloma Herrera as a principal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So in the matinee, I was dancing my principal role. In the evening, I was dancing my soloist role.
Back to back.
Back to back.
Mm-hmm. And
this
that's like
went on.
night after night after night.
This is for 65 shows.
Okay. Hello.
And sometimes I had 2 or 3 soloist roles in a show, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't, you know, I was,
It wasn't,
just,
you know, you didn't have the luxury of, okay, I'm doing this character and then I can take tomorrow off, you know, or I don't have to come back to this to 2 days from now when they come back to my cast. No, you were still pulling double, triple, quadruple duty back to back, you know, doing multiple things, many different roles and, you know, stuff like that.
Plus now the anxiety to get there was even more acute because I was so close.
I see. There's
Then
that
it started to,
I see.
then we start to,
Which we will get into at another day.
we'll get into that.
But
there's a big story there.
oh yeah, which I still want to talk to you about because I feel like a lot of dancers, male and female, you know, need to hear and can relate because no one talks about things, you know, about these kind of things. But so, you know, we're approaching that next level of principle. You know, can you kind of explain that process?
Sure. I mean, it was just balls to the wall. I mean, but luckily I had that same kind of vibe in the school where I was all day rehearsing for. I was prepared for that, like,
Right.
and so I was able to go through that without breaking down.
Sure.
Yet. I mean, it was fabulous. I was dancing Corsair principal role with Marcelo. I debuted Sylvia with Marcelo. Everything was with Marcelo from 23. Where was it? I was 23, 24 to 25.
Wow.
And I did some things with David. We debuted Swan Lake together. We did this truncated version in Chicago. Oh my God, I thought my head was going to blow up. It felt like it was in a microwave because we went straight from second act into Black Swan. They did no diversement.
No, just straight through. Just straight to it.
Like, just, this was my debut.
As a principal.
No.
No.
I was a soloist.
You were still okay.
Yes. I was still soloist.
Oh my God. No.
Yes. So I did that. We made it. And then they made us, I think this was later, they made us opening night in New York. But the summer of 2024, Met season, was it 2024? No, I was promoted. It's 2025.
Okay.
So it was just a lot of that, like a lot of that until 2025. And we get to the point where I'm like, is this going to happen or not? You know? And my debut of Sylvia, I was dropped in the middle of stage.
Okay, so this is something that we have talked about a numerous amount of times. So, I mean, we're not going to name names here or anything like that, but you know, here you are. This is it. This is
it. I mean,
you know, this
I'm
is
gonna
like,
be promoted. Like, it's like obvious. Like, I'm doing it all,
and then this happens.
and then I'm dropped. And you know,
Now, when you're saying drop, because I mean, again, you know, a lot of people out there in the ballet world are going to think, oh, was it, you know, from a certain height, from a shoulder, or from whatever.
I was in a full-on press.
A full-on press over the guy's head.
He tripped, and we came tumbling down that way.
Forwards or backwards?
Forward.
Forward.
So I landed face first.
Ouch.
From there.
Okay. And I mean,
We jumped up. I jumped up because of all of the adrenaline.
well, all the adrenaline's going to kick
and ran
in.
off the stage, and I'm just walking in shock because this is, you know, and the entire artistic staff and the PT, they come running back. They're like ripping, taking my costume. I was like, huh. And, you know, they're checking everything out. My hip, they're like, can you move? And I'm like, I guess. And like, cry. I'm like, I can't cry.
I got to go back out on stage.
Go back on stage. Well, they were like, can you finish the show? Can you finish the show? And I'm like,
watch me.
I finished it.
Yeah. Wow.
And Georgina was so, like, I think it must have been really brutal, and I just don't, is it just me? I don't realize things and I just keep going. It's like the snowplow, just keep going. But I think it was pretty brutal. Later on, they did an article about dancers and injuries and coming back. And they interviewed me about my fall because I think everyone knew that that's what fractured my back eventually.
Isn't it? It's pretty
Isn't
interesting.
that funny?
It's pretty interesting that
I didn't, like, I just kept going. I
No.
finished the show.
It's like-
Everyone was
yeah.
like standing ovation. Like it was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I was put in the New York magazines as the best Sylvia's this. I'm like shocked.
But then, when people just want to talk about the fall, you're like, it happened and I moved
I don't
on.
know.
I was done.
And the only person who brought it to my attention to really say, Michele,
This was serious.
this was serious, was David Howard.
Wow,
When I
okay.
went to him. He's like,
No, I mean, a lot of people might know that name,
yeah.
but I mean, I know a lot of people might not know that name. Your friendship and, if you want to call it coach, friend.
He was my coach throughout my entire principal career.
Mm-hmm.
Like once I was promoted to principal.
Sure. And then this is something that I don't think a lot of people know as well. I mean, you've shared it with me, but now
Yes.
it can be. You again, from as a child doing XYZ of classes, your outlets were to go and do more dancing elsewhere. You then get promoted. You obviously go through all the ranks and et cetera, you just talked about. Now, as a principal, you don't change who you are. You then have this, mentorship with David. And after all of these rehearsals and classes and XYZs, you go where? You don't go home.
No.
You don't go with friends or whatever.
No.
You don't go back to your home and
No.
Where do you go? You go take more classes with David.
Right.
You go get more coaching. You go to work on more fine-tuned details that other people, yourself or other staff members or fellow peers, friends didn't say or wouldn't say or couldn't say.
Right. Well, this is the funny thing. So the injury, it really popped out after I dealt with it for 6 months. And I kept getting spasms and I kept not being
You
able
didn't go
to
through surgery.
No. We were at Nutcracker and I called Kevin because my whole back had just seized up. And I was like, I can't do this. I got to figure this out. And I had to take muscle relaxers and I had to take a whole 3 weeks off. But within that time, I took David Howard's class. And he's
On top of that.
Well, and I started doing that. And even in David's class, I would stand because he's a bit different. He changed my perspective a lot, I should say. But my whole back shut down in his class. I didn't even do one plie. I'm like, I gotta go. I walked in the class and I left.
Oh my God.
It was devastating. I was just promoted. I had to prove myself, right? I felt like I had to
It can't.
keep going.
It can't
and,
end like that. It can't end like this. I just got here.
And there's a whole other story about the promotion. And,
Sure.
But it's classic me though. It's I want to do this, and we're gonna do this. It's I'm always thinking ahead.
Like chess,
And I
you're
always
5
make
steps
it
ahead.
Which is good and bad.
There's pros and cons to it. Sure.
Yeah.
Depends on who you talk to.
Sure. So, but David's like, you were dropped in the middle of the stage. I looked at him. I was like, yeah. He's like, that's why you had a back fracture. I'm like, no, I was just working too hard. I still couldn't.
You still couldn't accept it.
Believe it.
Yeah.
It was really weird. And so I went on this. I came in his class, and he's like, you're a great dancer, Michele. He's like, just let go. Just let it go.
This is what you've taught. You've really taught me here.
Yeah.
What he said, that dance like that person in the class, in the adult class,
Well,
who's
he
just
has a
there.
very mixed level class, and there are older ladies that love his class, and they come in for fun, and they're not gripping.
That's the key word.
And they're not overturning out, and they're not like, I gotta make it to principal. There's a different vibe to it.
Yeah, the
They're doing
atmosphere
it for the
is-
joy.
Exactly.
And I think that was his point. You got to find the love of it again. I think I was on such a dun, 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 dun,
Holding
dun,
on to the rope as high as you could.
and,
You're right.
Just doing whatever I could. And at some point, you gotta stop. And not that you have to stop, you can still
But
move, but
there's a sense of release that has to happen.
well, and then you also have to look internally.
Mm-hmm.
Because in ballet, it's a very visual art, and you're always looking at yourself in the mirror, and there's always these techniques that they're telling you to do. Everybody's from the outside. You're
Mm-hmm.
looking at the outside. Everybody's coming at you from the outside. So it's like, when do you have time to really sit? What am I feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Like, whoever asked you that?
No, they don't.
You know,
They don't do that.
And that's what David did for me.
I see.
You know, it gave me a minute to really start to enjoy and, you know, not to force things and to really start dancing from the heart. I know it sounds cliche.
No, not at all.
But, you know, you go from school, you go to company, you go rising through the ranks, and then, you know, you have this injury and it's like, oh my God. And I think the injuries and the negative stuff that happens as an opportunity to.
Again, that's another.
It was another. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, whoa!
Mm-hmm.
It's an opportunity.
And that's again, you know, a reason why you and I work so well together is that we have this old soul way of looking at something, you know, that, you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times in martial arts and acting and even in ballet, you know, well, what was something that really hurt or something that was a negative? And it's like, well, I can't really tell a person that because I've turned every negative into something else. I've turned it into a positive. And you don't hear that. People don't have that mentality.
Really?
No, I mean, I know. But I mean, that's not just in ballet or dance. I mean, that's in the acting. That's in everyday life, you know. I mean, this is the world we live in nowadays. But so you go from this new experience with David. How I mean, we're not going to get too in depth. We'll have many more conversations about
Sure.
things like that. But what brought out from David's classes that you were able to go into as this new principal that you came back from?
It's so funny. It's almost like I was calmer, and I had a new sense of confidence. And Alistair McCulley, one of the reviewers, said it the best. He said, she's got this quiet authority. He called it a quiet
authority.
Yeah.
Is that fist with like the mitten
The
glove,
velvet.
the velvet glove over it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, it wasn't like I was screaming to, you know,
Look at me.
look at me. I'm like a colt coming out of the gate.
Mhm.
I'm gonna do this.
No.
It was the same
Energy and
Yeah.
everything, but
there was a maturity, there was a confidence,
Mhm.
and there was a uniqueness to what I did because I was coming from here now.
sure, it was coming from a different spot.
It
That
was
makes
coming
sense.
from a different spot, and a lot of reviewers noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were like, "Whoa, she's an artist now," or "Whoa, I've never seen a swan lake like that. It's different than I've ever seen." You know, stuff like that
Right.
started to happen.
There's more of like a human being behind the
Right.
dancer, not just a
Right.
dancer out there wearing the costume and
And I
makeup
could-
and doing steps.
And in performances, I could be in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't trying to be principal dancer anymore.
You're being you
I was being me
in
or the
that character.
character.
Exactly.
And you know, I had some really memorable performances
Mhm.
from that, doing that. One of them was Sylvia with Roberta Bolle.
Mm.
That was amazing. A lot of people remember that one. And my last Swan Lake. You know, a lot of people were coming to see Corey Stern's debut. God bless him. I love him. I brought him through all of his first ballets that last year. Oh my God. We had a great time though. They were like, we were here to see him, but we had never seen a Swan Queen like this before. You
Oh my
know?
gosh! Wow.
So that always did my heart well.
Mm-hmm.
To hear that and to know that I did go through this principal period and that there was maturity and growth and
Well, so and again, you know,
there was an evolution.
exactly, and that's what this whole podcast is that it's our first one, and it's things that I don't think dancers really talk about, and so not to jump ahead again, but, you know, now what was next for you? Because you had done all of these things, you know, normal. I think the majority of it was, you know, okay, I've had this career. Now it's my time to go away from it and do something else.
So I was pretty young. I was 31, 30 or 31.
Okay.
I did get married, and that was a big change, and that opened and expanded my mind as well, because James, he's not part of the ballet world.
Mm-hmm.
He's part of a very social business world, which developed me in a social way, which I did not have.
Of course.
I didn't have that. It's fascinating. And sometimes I say, oh, I wonder how it would be now since I've developed that social side of myself, because I was so busy dancing.
Show.
Why would I have friends? How would I know to, you know, be at a party or talk to people or
about something else other than ballet?
Other than ballet, yeah. I mean,
someone that doesn't understand.
It was fascinating for me. You know, it was like, oh my gosh, social. Wow. Ooh, what is this?
A whole new world.
A whole new world. And it gave me big anxiety, you know, because I couldn't just talk about that, and I had to have other interests and other things. But he was super encouraging of, because the question was, do I go to another company? You know, one of the ones was National Ballet of Canada was on the table, Royal Ballet. And it was like, do I go
as a dancer or a staff member?
As a dancer.
As a dancer
at
still?
that time.
Okay.
Yeah, I spoke with Karen Kane. I think she was artistic director at the time. I think I was emailing with Monica Mason. But, you know, and we had lots of discussions, and it was like, why don't you just start your own thing? You know, I never thought, like, I came from, you know, feminist ballet.
Maryland.
You know,
my dress lights up in the dark.
Oh my God, stop. Yeah, like it was like high ballet, okay? High ballet times. And I decide like in my rebel way to leave and start my own thing.
And that was still in New York.
You know, everyone was like, "What are you doing? This is a big upset to the ballet." And I don't think I realized how much the fabric I was, or
did you
like,
feel?
You know, like
yeah. Did you feel that? You know, I mean, you personally. I'm not trying to step on someone else's toes from the past or anything. But did you feel that, you know, if you didn't go down that path, if you didn't go down this new path that we're just now getting into, did you feel like the path as a principal at such and such company, do you feel like you were kind of closing that book, or it was closing on its own?
Yeah, I mean, it was time.
It was time.
It was time.
Okay.
For sure. Oh yeah, it was time.
For you personally, or?
I think for all of us.
For all of us. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. But the funny thing is this whole creation of my own company. I'm like, how is this possible? And you know, we did it. What was it? I partnered with Charles Askegaard at the time, and we put on. I read the book. I think it was I Was a Dancer by Jacques Dempois, and he talked about the creation of New York City Ballet.
That's right.
And that place blew up 3, 4, 5 times. Like, and the thing that inspired me the most, he was like, "Oh, there were more people on stage that were in the audience." Right? And it's just like, I don't know. It just seemed true to me. It rang true to me. I was like, wow, this is like me. I'm always
right. No, I mean, it's the thing. It's again consistency, but I mean, just mind blown right now. But I mean, what I mean, how BalletNEXT? I mean, you go from competitions, you go from gold medals, you go from the rolls, the ranks, the falls, the injuries, and everything that comes with it. You know.
But I was discovering another side of my personality. I was letting it out. I don't think it had fully blossomed yet. you know, and I think it was fully coming out now.
And it was a chance for it to step on a whole new stage in a whole new atmosphere.
On my own terms.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hello.
You're like, there you go. Whoa.
But
yeah,
no,
and most people are like, "What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
You're on the Metropolitan Opera House stage. You're doing Swan Lake. How come you're in the prime of your career? Why are you doing this?"
But it was for you.
It was for me, and it was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
New York City, starting your own freaking company. Come on.
No. Yeah.
It was harder than doing 32 foot. I'm just like, God.